Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Bloomy Brain podcast, where you come to water and nourish your brain, in turn seeing your mind, body, and spirit bloom. Today, we have a very special guest. Everybody welcome to the show, Taylor Keeping Smith. She is the owner of Keeping It Glam here in Wilmington, North Carolina. She is also the host of My Happy Place, the podcast, and wife of my dear friend from home, Julian Smith. And we will get into that, you guys being business partners, a little bit later. But why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and about the business? For those of you that don't know before she gets into it, I'll just kind of tell you, one of the main endeavors that she does here is eyelashes. So eyelash extensions, tints, and lifts. And she just did mine, what was it, like 2 weeks ago?
I want to say a few weeks, yeah.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago, and I have been loving my results so much. It feels like I wake up with makeup on, but yet they're my natural lashes. This is good for me because I like to work out a lot, and then I also, one of the activities here in town that I partake in, they're a little bit funny about sometimes wearing eyelash extensions, so the tint and lift is perfect for me, and I was so happy to have that done here with you. So tell us a little bit about Keeping It Glam.
All right. So as she said, I am Taylor Keeping Smith, owner of Keeping It Glam. A few of the services that we provide there, like Carly said, lash extensions, lash lift and tints. We also have permanent makeup and hair. And then a brand new team member has just been added. Actually, one of my really close friends, Michaela Swain. So, actually she has added the boutique aspect of things. So I'm actually rocking one of her dresses today.
Gorgeous.
I love it. I'm so obsessed. It's like so girly and fun, and she's got tons of different styles. So yeah, that's a little bit about our business and overall just kind of trying to be a hub for all things women, all things beauty. Just a place where women can come in and just feel themselves. They can feel more confident. Where we can give them a good service and kind of get to know them a little bit better.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been what's going on with Keeping It Glam. And then, yeah.
Well, and looping back to what you just said there about, all things women and making women feel empowered and confident, I think that it says a lot too that you kept your maiden name in your business. I think that that's just such like a bossy female thing to do. It makes me think of that meme, like, when you see a woman become a doctor and she's like, he didn't get this degree for me. I'm using my maiden name for this degree.
No, I've never thought of it like that, but I love that. It's ironic though, because Julian and I, my husband, went back and forth, which that, but we went back and forth on that a few times because he was like, I don't know, like, are you sure you want to have your maiden name? Like, hyphenate, not really hyphenated, but like included.
Yeah.
And honestly, once we opened Keeping It Glam, it just kind of made more sense that way too. But I always thought like my last name was pretty unique and like not a lot of people had it. Middle schoolers love that. Like got tons of last name jokes, but hey, who's laughing now? It's fine.
Yeah.
Worked out for the best.
I love it. And it has like a particular ring to it, like a sentimental ring to it, even before that you did that with intention. It has just this like genuine ring. So I love that. But how are you doing today, Taylor? I'm so excited to finally have you on the show.
So excited.
Talking about this forever. Keeping It Glam. Also, this is where we are currently. This is where the podcast space is held. So when I say we've been talking about this a lot, we've really been talking about it a lot. So I'm happy to finally bring today to fruition. And for those of you that maybe didn't catch the theme of what we're wearing, and those of you, I know some of you will be listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, so you cannot see us, but I am wearing a pink dress and Taylor has a pink and red dress on. So the theme of today, with today's little foreshadow, is an episode about love. So I wanted to bring Taylor on here just because, like I said, I know her husband from my hometown, and they have been married for how many years now?
3 years. And then I'm pretty sure, so August of this year will be 4.
Okay. And I've always thought really highly of her husband. He's like 1 year older than me, I believe, one grade year. Yeah. So
Possibly.
growing up, we went to different schools, but he was a year older than me. And I just always thought he was a really cool person. And I looked up to him in a business sense a lot. And whenever I met Taylor, it just was like one of the best nights of my life, seeing you two together and just like how our vibes went off of one another and our conversation topics and pieces. And I've always admired their relationship style as a couple, how they lift each other up, how they work together very well. So I knew that me being someone in the dating world, not married yet, I knew that, you know, with all of this being said, I just really wanted to have an episode where we kind of just kick back and kind of talk all things love, marriage, relationship, sex, what was the other thing that I was going to say on here? Red flags, green lights, dating apps, monogamy versus polygamy, etc., etc. So let's begin. So obviously you're married. We've talked about this. How old were you when you got married, and how do you think that that has changed you as a person?
Okay, that's a big one. So I was 22 years old when I got married, and it has honestly changed everything in me as a person. I think definitely like when I met Julian, I think there was already a pretty big shift, like even just dating him and like knowing him. I think there was already like a giant shift. I think, you know, I think that's why they call it your better half. You know, it's like somebody who's constantly just inspiring you to be better.
Yeah.
But I think even just also in marriage, I think there's this confidence that comes from, wow, like, am I actually like, I'm good enough to like, to be this man's wife, like to carry this man's last name. And I think there's like,
cute.
There's a certain kind of like, I guess, confidence that comes with that just,
you exude being wifey.
Absolutely. That you just get so like excited and just like in love, you know, love.
No, I love that you say that. So 2 things that you said there. I really like that you said you feel that this is a person that is making your life better, and, you know, it's making you a better person along the way. Because I heard this piece of philosophy once, or this quote, and I cannot remember who it's by, but it's like, you know, don't settle for 50-50 makes 100. Did anybody ever pass a test in school with a 50? No, heck no. That's like an E or an F, I think. So it's like strive to be 100 and then meet your other 100, and together you guys make 200% instead of 100%. So I really liked that. And there was something else that you said towards, so just this feeling of just feeling empowered by getting to carry someone's last name. I mean, truly, that really is such a big thing. And I think sometimes marriage can feel so, you know, it's marriage. It's just something we do. You know, we grow up, we get together, we get married, we have kids and live happily ever after. I'm a very depthened person when it comes to, you know, marriage and having children. I'm like, people act like it's so blasé or mundane sometimes, but it's truly such a special and sacred thing to share these experiences with someone. And it's not something that I myself take lightly. And I do think that there is an amount of, you know, liberation by being a single female and purchasing things on my own and doing this and doing that. But it's, you know, we're all living different experiences, and neither one of our experiences take away from each other's. And if anything, I hope to have an experience like yours very soon, because I think that all humans yearn for companionship, and it's just a matter of finding that right one. So to see that you have found that is truly inspiring.
Yeah, it's definitely a change. I was actually, as you were talking, I was kind of thinking about, this could sound like a totally crazy metaphor, but this is just what I had to relate it to. And
yeah,
kind of nerdy, but it's fine. So you know that feeling that you get like as a small child, like going to Disney?
Yeah.
And it's this feeling of like excitement and magic and like just all the things that you believe in.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is as like young girls, that's the idea that we have of marriage. It's like this, wow, there's so much magic and there's love and like this person that just like loves me like through my flaws and like at my highs and lows, like it's just like this person like loves me, you know what I mean? And I think that we have this magic about it as young girls. And as we get older, I think that the more that we're hurt and heartbroken, we put this kind of guard up that almost allows us to not feel that same magic. So it's like going to Disney as an adult, it's still fun, but it's not the same effect as like when you looked at it through a child's eyes. And I think that over time, like after our hearts have been broken so many times, we've built this, you know, without even really realizing it, this almost shield from other people. And it's like, even to people who haven't wronged us yet, or who we haven't made, you know, maybe, like for instance, my example of like, whenever I first went into dating Julian, I was like, I'm getting catfished. There's absolutely no way this person is a real person. There is absolutely no way any of this is real. This is fake. This is not, because I was just like done. Like I was done with men. I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to find something like what I've been praying for my entire life. And it was nuts. I think everything changed whenever like his love and unconditional love showed me God's unconditional love. And I think that awakened a new kind of like feeling inside of my spirit. So I guess the only real thing I can compare it to is this magic that you feel like for Disney, like as a child versus an adult. And I think that the more that we learn about ourselves, obviously, in the seasons of being alone, and we do those girl boss things where we go out and we live our best life and we do those things by ourselves. And, you know, we find confidence in that. I think that there's so much magic in bringing that same energy into this relationship with somebody who could be so different from you. And yet you're able to like learn to work and live to and just be together at all times. Exist. Coexist. I love that.
And I really like that you say his love for you feels like God's love for you, because we were created in the eyes of love, to give love, to not withhold love, to spread love, to share love. So I really like that. And I heard this quote once, I cannot remember again who said it, but it was like, finding true love on earth, sharing love with a partner is the closest thing you will ever experience to heaven on earth. And, you know, we hear it in songs, your love is my drug, or this love feels like drugs, or you're like a drug, you know, all these things. But truly, true love, oh my God, I mean, my heart is just exploding. It's like, it truly is like a drug that doesn't exist unless you find it in another person. And you'll just be sitting there on a random Monday night. Your world could be colliding, falling down, but just sharing that love and that bond with someone, you don't even have to be doing anything. It just can be so special. So I love that you say that. And the point about the girl boss stuff, I think that it's been so inspiring to see you, as a fellow girl boss, to not sit back and be, oh, you know, I'm married now. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but as someone that's in the working space myself, to see you be like, no, like I want to keep doing my thing and keep going after my dreams, chasing my dreams, going after my goals, goal setting. I think that that's very inspiring as well, because this, you know, we all speak from biases. We all have biases that are based on different experiences we've had in life. And personally, an experience for me is sometimes I get so wrapped up in whoever I'm dating and, you know, loving them endlessly and unconditionally, that I just, you know, I climb to the top of the totem pole and I kick my main priorities off. And I'm like, this relationship, this is my main priority now. You know, this is my main job. This is my baby. I have to nurture it. And then other things get swept under the rug.
You like clock out of life. You're like, I'm clocked out, guys.
I'm in dream mode, but that's not real life. And that is where, you know, a couple times I have been stumped and I have not liked the space that I've cultivated for myself in love, because I've put too much into that love and there's no balance. So to see that you and Julian are able to exude a very classy amount of balance, it's been motivating and inspiring.
I appreciate that. I will say, I mean, that's not to say that whenever we first got together that I didn't have that same just, okay, clocking out of life. Like, this is it. This is the one. I'm going to do everything in my power to make this work, you know, like, like when we first met, our first date was on the beach. So I met him in Fayetteville. We literally drove to the beach. And I'm sitting there. It was so great. And I'm sitting there on the beach and I'm staring at this man and I'm like, if I don't marry him, I'm going to die. Like that was like my initial thought. And like, I tell everyone that I'm like, I looked at him and in my soul was like, I won't recover from this if I don't like marry this guy. Like I'm never going to recover. Nothing will, the world will never look the same. So this has to happen.
Guys, she's a Cancer for those of you that don't know.
Isn't that obvious? Anyway.
No, I love it. I love it.
I'm smacking the microphone. So that was kind of like the energy in that. And so I'd gotten to this point where we would be texting. I think it was, so he was in Pembroke, UNC Pembroke. I was living in Clayton at the time.
Yeah.
We were about an hour and 45 minutes away from each other. Okay. 2:00 in the morning, we're texting. He's like, I miss you. I was like, I miss you too. He's like, I wish you were here. I was like, I know you're being cute, but don't tempt me with a good time.
Say less.
Right. Like literally all you had to say. Don't even say anything else. Immediately was like, I'll come right now. He's like, you for real? I'm like, no, seriously, I will get in my car right now. He's like, you'll get here at 5 a.m. I'm like, that's fine.
You get in, whoops, now I bumped the mic. Mike, you get in the car and you just immediately put the track on. It's like, now I would walk 500 miles. Is that how it goes? No, but I love that.
I left a note for my mom. I was like, love you. Peace out. I drove to Pembroke in the middle of the night.
I forgot he was at Pembroke.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. And that area can be a little.
Last example, because I could literally do an entire podcast on the list of stupid things I did because of how in love I was with this man. Yes. Uh-huh. Which, and in all fairness, that love was definitely reciprocated. I think he did a really great job at showing me that love back, but I'm a hopeless romantic, baby. You already know.
Yeah.
Like, we had a Halloween party. Okay. So he invited me to this Halloween party and I told my parents, I'm going. My dad said, I need you to just go by Carwell's, go get your car checked out. And you can go. I was like, Dad, if they keep my car overnight, I swear I'm going to lose my mind. Like one of you's giving me a car. Like I'm going to this party. Julian, my dad's like, like it's fine. Don't worry about it. He's not going to keep your car. Ends up keeping my car overnight. I was like, okay, who's giving me a car? Neither one of them. I was like, I'm Ubering. I'm going to Uber with a stranger an hour and 45 minutes. I Ubered. I did.
An hour and 45?
$80, which was like, looking back, if I was to do that now, probably very expensive.
Yeah.
$80 for an hour and 45-minute Uber with just this random man who had candy in the back of his van. Which it was Halloween. 5-star, 100%. List of not smart decisions to make as a young 19-year-old. Cause I was 19 at the time when I first met Julian.
Oh, the things we do for love.
Young and in love, which
I don't even want to know my list.
Oh my gosh.
Just kidding.
We're going to do an entire podcast just on the list of stupid things we did for people that we loved.
I mean, we could sit here all day. The hell with this list of questions.
Let's toss it.
Go into this. Yeah. Well, I do want to ask you, do you think that love is ever supposed to hurt? Or do you think that it ever hurts?
Yes. And I'll tell you this. So kind of like with what you were talking about with that level of like, okay, once I love this person, that's it. Like throwing all my responsibilities out the door, this like feeling of like canceling like, your entire schedule for this person. There becomes this level of like, especially once you're married and, that was the question, right? Like, or is it just love in general?
Love in general. It can be marriage. I mean, I'm not married, so I'll go into how I feel about it. But just really, if it's normal to ever hurt, because I feel like so many people wonder this. So I wonder it.
I think that's going to go also hand in hand with what you were talking about at the beginning when you said we'll go into kind of like, red and green flags. And I feel like you kind of have to be in charge of like what you are and are not willing to allow, right? So like when you're in a relationship, there has to be this list of like, and especially after like the amount of people that you start to date, when you're like, okay, I don't like this, I do like this, I don't, you especially start to figure out like what is okay and what isn't okay. And you have to be pretty much an advocate for yourself. But I think absolutely. I think in the beginning stages of your relationship, like falling in love, it shouldn't hurt. Like in the pit of your stomach, just like ache. There shouldn't be that. Like if it's at the beginning, I think that is, we can safe to say red flag. But I do think after you've pretty much like, defied all your odds and done all your crazy crap, like early on in your relationship and you're in love, you get engaged, right? Like there's these talks now about forever. And I think when you sign on for forever, you're pretty much accepting to love this person through the highs and lows of themselves, like through that, like the highs and lows of their seasons, through, you know, whatever it is that you guys are going to brave and face together.
Yeah.
And once you get into marriage and you go through, you know, there's going to be big life things that you both are tackling at the same time. And you're both not going to totally feel the same way all the time because you're two completely different people. Mm-hmm. So you get into these, you know, situations sometimes where you almost have to prioritize your problems when you start, like, especially for like my husband and I, for instance, like, we're pretty much like, we're running a business, and two businesses really, because between Julian's and my own, like, we're incorporating now like the boutique side into things. So we have all these like moving pieces. And then on top of that, if we have anything happening in our personal lives outside of our own priorities that we have day to day, we have to pretty much navigate like how to like feel what those things happen. So I think that like sometimes we can create expectations for how we want somebody else to respond to us based on like what we want or like how we would respond. And I think that's when like honestly, just a lot of patience comes into play whenever you're like, okay, like me and this person love each other, but we're so different. And I think that sometimes it can hurt, you know, like if you both feel totally different on a situation, and that just means you have to sit down and you have to talk about it. But I think that's kind of where people kind of in relationships sometimes draw lines in the sand, because we're two in our own way and our own stubbornness to allow ourselves to be able to fully and unconditionally love somebody. Because we think loving is like, oh, it's on my terms. It's based on like what I need at this moment. And we're not always going to get what we need in that moment. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that that person doesn't love you. It just means that there's a significant amount of compromise that comes behind like being in a marriage.
No, I really like all of this that you said. I think that this has incredible takeaways, and I couldn't agree with you more. What would you say is a huge red flag for you? Like, just you will not put up with this, or maybe even you used to put up with it, that later became a red flag in your relationship, or it became something that you just never allowed Julian to do because you dealt with it so much in the past?
I would say yelling and lying. 100%.
That's funny. Mine is also like people getting loud and becoming disrespectful. And mine stems from, I never saw my dad speak disrespectfully to my mom. Is that kind of where you come from a little bit on this topic?
That's a hard one. My dad was a little more of a yeller. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, like, I can only hear myself getting kind of reprimanded if you're yelling at me. Like, it brings me back to like thinking that in my childhood, like I'm being reprimanded, I'm being like yelled at, like I'm being like, you know what I mean? It makes me feel like lesser than. Yeah. So I think for me, like, if you're going to get through to me, like, you're going to have to speak like normal, like have a normal conversation. I think for me also, like, the lying portion of things, I got very, very lucky that Julian is like the most truthful person I think I ever met. I think that's also why I fell in love with him so quick, was like, there is like, he will literally sit there and like play by play, tell me what he's like, what's going on in his day. Like, and not to be like, oh, I have to update her because we're together, but more so in a way of like, I want to tell her what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I think like, especially like as girls, like we want to text our man, like, this is what I did today. And can you believe so-and-so said this? And like, you want to update them in your life. He's always been like, oh my God, baby, what did they say? Or like, what happened with this? Like, he actually, like, I think cares. Yes. And he cares. And I think a lot of times
that means so much.
And when you're like in a relationship with somebody who lies, you can't get that level of intimacy in a conversation, or like in even like the friendship aspect of your relationship, because like they're constantly trying to not trip on their own lies, or like, and then like something little comes up and you're like, why lie about that? That's so small. And it's like, if you could lie to me about something this big, like that's a red flag to me. Like, you cannot, like, so that's why like finding somebody who literally like is always truthful with me. I think that was whenever I was like, wow, I've been missing out on this my whole life. Are you for real right now? I've been getting lied to this whole time. And I just thought this is normal for boys. Like, but no, that's the difference between boys and men.
Yeah. Okay. Amen.
Okay, louder.
Amen. For the people in the back. Yeah. There was this quote that I heard one time. I think it's by a brand called Boys Lie, but it's like, girls wear makeup how does it go? It's like
I kind of feel like I know where you're going, but I can't remember the saying. But
girls wear makeup because boys fall in love with what they see, and boys lie because girls fall in love with what they hear.
That's the
there
one.
we go.
But
that made me think of that.
Well, and it's like, to an extent, I feel like that is so much more of like lust culture, though. Like that's so much more of like that like lustful of like, oh, like that woman is
boy,
so
girl
hot.
culture too.
Boy girl culture of just like classroom.
Young,
yeah. Like, oh, she's cute, or oh, like he, you know, that was this or that, you know. I think we create these like fantasies in our own minds, like growing up, where we're like, yeah, that's what's attractive. But it's funny because I mean, if you were to do obviously a love languages test on somebody in high school, their love language would be so different than if you retested them in their 20s going into like their almost 30s.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it like they're not doing anything to support you financially. They're not doing anything to like help you work towards like your lifestyle, your dreams. Like the only thing that they were like focused on is like the words that somebody can say to them or how they can make them feel.
Yeah.
And like, I think as an adult, like it's weird. It's almost like when you're at Christmas time and you open like an Instapot and you get excited and you're like, never in my life would I think I'd be excited about a damn Instapot. Like, but that's like the difference. So like now it's like when you're thinking of your love language, you're like, oh my God, he took the trash out. That was so sexy.
Right. He folded the laundry.
Didn't even have to ask him. Okay. Like, and so
he picked up dinner. Yeah.
Right.
All the
so like for me now, I think it's like seeing like him do more things like that. And that's why there is this level of like when you live together, when you're married, there's this different level of love where it's like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe you do that for me. Like that's so sweet. It almost shows, you know what I mean? Like this, like, wow, like the way, like you do so much for me. Like, and I think that's like where like it keeps that like that love tank full.
Rapport. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll be in there taking a client, doing some lashes. I look up Julian's like vacuuming and like mopping the floor. I'm like, oh, that's sexy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, thank you, sir.
You're like,
right. Literally, if I could whistle, I'm like, I have to do like the John Cena. You can't see me in front of my mouth just to whistle. It's ridiculous.
No, I love everything you said. And I think too, another big one for women, I know that this is one of mine, like through and through, is if you are just attracted to me physically, and this is something easily I can tell, like I want someone that is going to be attracted to me intellectually, because beauty is fleeting, beauty is fading, beauty
Baby, I'm gonna
is
get real old and I can't afford all that Botox.
Right. And it's just kind of like, you know, what is even here if it's just based on how I look? You know, I've been with guys before, I've dated guys that don't ask a single thing about my blog, about my podcast, about this, about what I'm writing. That.
Just like, let me buy you a drink, shawty. And you're like, I mean, dude, you don't know anything about me.
Yeah. And it's like, they don't go the extra mile to try, because they're like, well, you're here. Like, I'm just enjoying this time with you. Okay. But like, do you know anything about me?
You're like there's so much more to me.
Do you want to ask about my family? Do you want to know about my childhood? Like, do you want to know me? Because none of this, like, you know, this physical body, this is not real.
You're
this
like
is
a year ago I was
my
blonde.
Soul. Right. I mean, these material bodies are, you know, just the houses of our souls,
right?
Essentially. And you know, this brings me into, it's kind of like a funny word, sapiosexual. I identify with being sapiosexual. It just really means that you are attracted to someone that is intellectual. So through the years, my family and friends have given me a hard time. They're like, Carly, you have such a broad range of tastes, like, you know, very different looking people. And I just really do accredit that to being attracted to someone's mind. And then I tell my sisters this a lot. I'm like, it's almost like a spell. Like when someone, you know, when we're really soulfully vibing, the second they start being mean or disrespectful or yelling at me, you know, that's my big thing that I can't handle, the yelling. It's almost like I see them for maybe actually how they really are, and I'm just kind of like,
true colors.
Yeah, I'm not really attracted to this anymore. I was attracted to your mind, but now that your mind seems a little bit infected by the parasite, and this relationship has seemed to sour, you know, I'm good. I'm gonna move on from here.
Suddenly, I have the ick.
Yeah. That part.
Carly said, suddenly everything about you screams ick.
Suddenly,
ick.
I am so
you yelled
appalled.
ick.
No, seriously.
You can't have a deep conversation. Ick. You don't read. Ick.
Yeah. I mean, God, this podcast could just be about that.
All of your icks
in itself. Yeah. I mean, what is an ick for you? What is a big ick for you?
Well, so we talked about, like, we both said, like, lying and, like, the yelling. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of, like, an ick of mine. Like, I'm trying to think in, like, my own husband, but I can't think of anything with him. So I guess I can think back to,
think back
I was like, I can only really think back to exes because I haven't had to think about, like, an ick in a minute, but...
Oh, lucky you.
I know. You. Oh my gosh. Okay. No, my ick used to be Snapchat. Like men who were like addicted hardcore to Snapchat and who were like, can't text me, but can like send me a picture of themselves or like ask me a question on Snapchat and then be like, what did I ask you again? Right. Bro, why are you even talking to me? Like, what do you mean?
Dude, or like they'll look at your socials before they get back to you through text, which just seems like such a little boy thing to do. So I got cheated on through Snapchat 5 years ago. Here's a little side story for you guys. I don't have a Snapchat because it just was a little bit too, it just was like tugging on my emotional strings a bit, thinking about how I got cheated on through here and how it can be so secretive.
The app is basically made for people to cheat on people. Like, why are you deleting everything after it's already came up? Like, why can't you keep a stream of the pictures? Like, that's so weird.
I feel like, was maybe the app
what are you hiding?
For people, cheaters and drug dealers?
Cheaters and drug dealers.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, but I will say sometimes my sisters, they're like, get a Snapchat again. You miss so much. And I do feel like I miss a lot of, they're like, this is where we post our raunchy things. And when we're on vacation being crazy, but I don't know. I feel like I'm on social media enough as is, but I agree with you about the ick. Like especially if it's like a man, like an older guy that's like older than us, like being on Snapchat all the time, or like if they ever said something about a streak, like bye, I'm walking out of the room.
Oh no, I don't think I was ever able to keep up with streaks. I would just post like, and I think also like when I had a Snapchat, I was so much more addicted to like social media. I was so much more like, what is so-and-so and this person and that person doing? And I've gotten to this point, especially just like where I'm at now, where it's like, there's some people like from like hometown and like old friends and things like that like, I'm like, yeah, I want to keep up with their life. I want to know what's going on with them. If one of my old friends have had a baby or like got married, like that's cool to know. Yeah. But like, if you aren't like contributing to me in any way, we weren't friends, we don't have any kind of prior relationship, like you're not like come into my business, like you don't even know what I'm doing or I'm about at this point in my life. Why am I so addicted to knowing what you're doing every minute of the day? I don't care that you're eating a bowl of eggs. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like,
no, seriously.
It's one of those things where it's like, it becomes, because that's all you're seeing. It's not like on Instagram where like you can kind of keep up with other businesses or just like, you know, like an artist that you really like, or just different things. Like you can have tons of different content. Like that is solely just seeing what people are doing like every second of the day. So pretty actually early on in Julian and I's relationship, we gave up Snapchat, and occasionally,
I love that.
Occasionally there's been times where I've gone back and like I've downloaded Snapchat, but not even to post to anybody, just because Snapchat is the only app that has the feature where if you're listening to music in the car and you're singing at the same time, you can record it, because Instagram doesn't do that. So I would literally download it just to like make a video, save it, and then delete Snapchat again.
I think Instagram updated now, but no, I feel you on that.
Do they do that now?
I feel like so.
Okay. I need to check that out.
I think you have to do the hands-free though. I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
I'll also try hands-free next time.
No, but like, I completely get that. It's like the addiction's still there a little bit. It's like waking up in the middle of the night to have cookie dough at 3 a.m. You're like, come on, Snapchat, just real quick. No, but okay. I guess an ick for me too. And this is not just with guys. This is just like with people in life. I don't think that anybody is entitled to anything in this lifetime. I'm very strict about that and strong-willed in my belief set. I mean, even when I do my daily cold plunges in the shower, I try to do 30 seconds to a minute on freezing.
You are brave.
I like to say, I am not entitled to hot water. I am not entitled to hot water. I am blessed to have hot water, because some people don't have it. And
that's big, Carly.
It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm being humbled in a sense of I am not entitled to have this. So back to my ick. I get astronomically, like just just so repulsed when people feel entitled to my time, but especially men. Like, let's say, because this does happen so often as being a female, we will just be being nice to somebody. We're just being a nice, good Samaritan to someone in public. And then all of a sudden it's, why didn't you text me? Why didn't you call me? I want to call you. I want to see you, this and that. And it's like, what?
I'd be like, baby, you ain't entitled to nothing or my time or to even talk to me or to text me.
Yeah, and it's even worse too when you actually maybe were into them and you're like, dang, that was a good connection. We caught a good vibe there. And then they treat you like that, acting all, savage and just, give me more of your time. And it's just like, ew, ick. Like, I actually wanted to hang out with you, but now you're not being a gentleman about it. And if we break down the root of that word, gentle, you're not being gentle in spirit, and therefore
you're preaching.
I'm not into it anymore. So yeah,
straight up preach. That was a preach moment right there. That was good.
Oh, okay.
Literally, I need everyone listening to take something from that right there. That was unreal.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I've been wanting to say that for a while, and I feel like it's like good that it just came out on the
Carly.
podcast.
Let them know.
It's just I don't like it, but
new ick for Carly is if you start to talk to her or date her, you got to listen to the podcast first, so all of her icks, and you can actually have intellectual conversations with her, because then you actually know what she likes.
Yes, and yes, exactly. What does a marriage or relationship have to have? Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Patience and compromise. 100%. Lots of patience. Like I said earlier, kind of how we were talking about, like, everyone has different backgrounds. Like, you grew up in a very different family than the person that you're going to marry's background. No couple is ever going to have the same married, or family background.
Yeah.
Hopefully you align equally yoked in the same beliefs. But as far as, maybe there's some conversations where, like, you guys can get into these, big conversations about things. Ultimately, though, you're going to have to get to this place where, despite any of that, you find this level of compromise.
Yeah.
And obviously it takes patience to get there, because, like, you're pretty much having to change as a person, but that goes back into what I was saying about it being your better half. Like, it's not a feel like you need to, like, it's a feel like you want to, because it's like, this person loves me so much and I love this person and I would do anything for this person, and even become the best version of myself, even if that means, like, really digging in deep to, like, the icky parts of myself that maybe I don't like. I'm willing to work on those parts if it means that it'll make him happy or make, myself better for him. And so I think that it takes a lot of that compromise and that constant, like, pulling and tugging. And, I think that especially for us, like, we do see each other, like, every day, but we're not able to fully connect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
During the day, like, when we're here at work, we're passing ships. Like, he'll sometimes go and surprise me, and, like, he'll get me, like, a snack, or if I'm back to back and I don't have lunches, he'll get me a smoothie. Like, there's ways that he, like, shows me, like, hey, I'm thinking of you. Hey, I'm proud of you. And then, like, for me, like, I'll come up on my lunch break and I'll sit on the couch and, like, I'll just kind of, like, watch him work. We'll hang out a little bit on, like, if I get a little break. Yeah. And then after work is kind of whenever I try to, like, make him a priority. And, like, that can even be, like, compromise can even be something as simple as, like, okay, cool. Like, I know that Julian loves to go to the movies. So, like, if I wanted to, like, be sweet, I could be like, okay, hey babe, want to go to a movie or something like that? Cause he likes stuff like that. Or, like, for me, like, he knows, like, I'm kind of bougie, and, like, I love really bougie dates and, like, macaroons and tea times and, like, all things, like, we're
gonna have that at our
next time.
Macaroons for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm, like, all the things, like, romanticism and just, like, so he's all about, like, making sure that I also, have you ever been to Far From France?
Yes, I love their cappuccinos. That place is so good.
So he'll take me over there sometimes, and we'll get macaroons and, like, cutesy little things. They have the best, like, chicken salad. It's so good.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
On a croissant. It's delicious. This isn't even a plug, by the way, just for anybody who's listening. This wasn't a paid ad. It could be if they want to help out Carly.
Right.
But that place is just really bomb.
From France. Yes, I love the name too.
Yeah, it's just so dope.
The man that owns it is very sweet.
The French dude?
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's super nice. I don't know him, like, personally, but I met him a few times when I've been.
Oui, oui.
Oui, oui.
No, but I love that you say that. I couldn't agree more with all of it. And I think it was super sweet that you and Julian kind of thought on the answer together. And it's cool that you get to, really just tell the audience how you guys do have patience and compromise with one another, because obviously marriage, of course, does get to be a walk through the park sometimes, but other times it's work, and it can be challenging, and you have to, really put your best foot forward and work hard to keep something and keep someone that you love around. So I like that you paint it in such a clear way for us, and you're being very transparent. So thank you. What would you say? Would you say that you guys place a high value on intimacy? And I think that there is a spectrum for this. I think that there are some people that, maybe are getting after it all the time, like little Energizer bunnies, and their levels are incongruent. And then I think that there are some people on the complete opposite that, are fine with not being intimate and passionate, maybe in a sexual way. But what do you guys say, or what would you say that you guys believe when it comes to expressing your love for each other in an intimate way?
Yeah, so I feel like for us personally, I definitely would not compare us to Energizer bunnies. Although very in love, I definitely would not compare us to Energizer bunnies. It's definitely a high priority for us, like intimacy is. And obviously, as a woman, like I feel like we're a lot more into like the passion and intimacy of things. Julian definitely does also appreciate those things. And we do definitely make time for that throughout like our weeks and things like that. I wouldn't say like we're like, it's not like a have to for us. It's not one of those things where like because sometimes if we get really just engulfed in our work and in our own world, and like one of us is like, babe, I'm really stressed out this week. I'm like focused on like this big event or this big, if he's got like a wedding, whatever it may be that we're like preparing for, like we're not like bummed if like the other person, we're just kind of like, okay. And it's never like oh my God, I have to do this. You know what I mean? Like, it's always just like, okay. You know what I mean? It's like, if we do, then we're like, okay, yeah, I love you so much. This is so great, whatever. But then if we don't, we're also like, okay, like, we're also like working and coexisting together and trying to like build our dreams together. So I think sometimes we do also realize that is part of the priority, even though obviously intimacy is definitely one of those. And then like, obviously you got to get creative too.
Yeah.
I know Julian would make that argument. He would say,
got to get creative.
Got to get creative.
A Cosmopolitan article, actually, I believe it was Cosmo, just came out with like sex schedules being one of the new big things.
Oh my gosh. Julian would hate that. He would absolutely hate that though.
I didn't know how I felt about it at first either, but then I was like, okay, I could kind of see.
I mean, if you wanted to use it as a very vague, like, oh yeah, I forgot that we're supposed to do that as a married couple kind of thing.
Like maybe still have the impromptu little like meetups, like trickled throughout the week, but then maybe have a couple on the calendar.
Instead of like timing them though, more than that, I don't know if anyone uses the Flow app. I know that I do.
Oh my God, but I need to log everything again.
I'm pretty good about like logging things, and like I just go on there and you can literally log protected sex, unprotected sex. You can log like,
you guys hear this?
All of the things.
The Flow app.
The Flow app.
Brought to you by Flow.
Brought to you by Flow. And I think that for me, it's not that I have to remind myself to do those things, but it's like if I go on the calendar, you can obviously see there's a heart. Like it'll show you like literally it's like, okay, month of March. Yeah. Here, there it is. And you'll just see these hearts throughout the week. So you can kind of keep up with how much you are doing it.
That's cute.
Yeah. So it's like, I
love that.
And I'm like, oh my God, babe, like, look how many times this week, you know what I mean? Or like things like that. But it's not like one of those things where like, if we're so like busy and booked and just out of our minds, stressed out, that if we didn't, we would be like depressed or something. Like we'd be okay.
Yeah, no, I love that too. And I agree with you. I think that in relationships, I place a very high priority and an immense amount of value on being sexually intimate and just intimate in general with my partner. And I think in the times that sometimes you just need like a listening ear, when maybe someone just wants to go there with you and you're like, wait, but I wanted to talk. Like I wanted to like tell you about my day right now, or like, like I want you to listen to me in that moment.
Goes back to what you were saying about like the intellect. Like you're like, I want to have that intellectual connection.
Yeah. Because the older I've become, I guess it was around like 22-ish that I completely lost all interest. Like I basically to be intimate with someone, I have to love them. Like, I have to love them. There's no question about it. I can't, it just seems like such a serious and transactional thing to experience and do with someone, to like not love them. And that's, yeah. So like, I feel like that's just me. And that does go back into, you know, there has to be that intellectual connection before there can be the sexual connection.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that is definitely, I don't even remember what the question was, but
I think you're asking about intimacy.
The value.
Yeah. There's value there, ladies and gentlemen.
What has it been like working together and being married? I'm sure it's an enriching experience that can become challenging at times.
It definitely is that. It's honestly really fun because when I was working like previously as a lash artist, not for myself, and back in Durham, I remember going to work in the morning. I worked about an hour from where we lived, like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'd drive to work every morning, get there super early. I'd be there all day, then like drive home. We were also like involved in a lot of other things back then, but I just remember being at work all day and being like, oh my gosh, like I miss like Koopy and Julian, and obviously Scarlett too, but you know.
Yeah.
But, and I guess like now it's so different because I say like Scarlett because like she doesn't really get to come still, but like Julian just being upstairs and like Koopy being downstairs. Koopy's my dog, by the way, for people who don't know. And I guess just being able to see them all the time, I definitely have a lot more of like an appreciation for getting to see him at work. So like, even though there's times where obviously as husband and wife, we're going to like disagree on things, like there's something I could do in the computer, like, hey, I'm going to do it this way. And then he could just be like, no, I want to do it the other way. Obviously there's going to be like different small conversations where we're going to clash heads or we're going to disagree, but that's where that patience comes in, where
patience and compromise, baby.
Patience and compromise. And honestly, I am really, really lucky to have somebody who like thoroughly like listens to everything I'm saying. So even though he is a Capricorn and he is, you know, hard-headed, I love my Capricorn baby.
Capricorn and a Cancer.
Right. But we make it work because of that compromise and that like willingness to understand like where the other person's coming from and just like trusting like, okay, like what are you feeling led to do at this time?
Yeah.
And kind of going based off of like our own like, I was trying to think of the word, but like our own like feelings towards it pretty much.
Yeah. It's like his Capricorn energy keeps your feet grounded and then your Cancer energy keeps his head in the clouds. So you guys have the perfect combo of feet on the ground, head in the clouds. So I love that for you guys. And I think that is so cool to think about the two of you working together. And me just as like a very private person that sometimes like only likes to have one or two people that I'm like literally giving, you know, play-by-plays of my daily life to. I bet it makes it very easy and it probably strengthens your connection as husband and wife, being that he's in here with you and can kind of see the emotional side of, you know, how hard and strenuous work can be in these situations that are happening and taking place, rather than maybe someone that has some sort of crazy busy job themselves and you get to give like a 30-second debrief to after your whole day is over, when actually you needed to like really talk to them for a little while and like really unpack and process some things and get their opinion on some things. And so I respect that. I admire that. And I think that I would be open to having something like that as well in my own life, because I think that it just really reinforces the whole name, power couple.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And I will say too, like obviously there's been a transitional period, obviously adding the office aspect up into our business. So like Julian is kind of closed off in this area now. So we have our podcast, and then past the camera, if you're watching, not listening, you would see his office kind of set up in here. Yeah. So having that adjustment has definitely changed the roles of things a little bit. I think Julian's been a lot more hands off in this season, and not really like as a reflection of like not wanting to be involved, but more so wanting me to be more in the driver's seat. Cause I feel like there would be, whether it be just a situation we were both handling together or something that maybe we were like, or a teammate or just different things like that, where he has his own opinions on something, it would kind of be like, he felt like, okay, I'm going to address this or I'm going to handle this. Yeah. But now I think that he's a lot more than ever kind of being like, okay, you know what, Taylor, like, you're killing it. You're kicking ass and taking names. Like, I support you. Like, I'm here upstairs, but like, I want you to run it. And like, I want, like, if there's an issue with somebody, I want you to address it. Like that kind of thing. And he's still super involved, and he'll still like, you know, like put his 2 cents in every once in a while. Not that like, you know, we're running around condemning people, but like, obviously we're running a business. So that there's a million things that can happen, whether it be through a client or just different interactions that we have with people, policies, and just all of the things, payroll, whatever it may be. So kind of him transitioning into being like, okay, it's still our business, but like Taylor's the face of, it's a beauty business and Taylor's the face of it. So I'm going to like relinquish those reins to her. So we still we definitely do talk a significant amount about like things going on in the business, especially with him being up here, and he is very involved. But it's one of those things where it's like, there's some things that like, you know, that you can just like handle on your own, and you just got to keep like rolling through. Cause if you're like, if I talk about this right now and I make it a whole thing, like I'm going to get more upset than I really am. And there's things that you just like, okay, mental note, and I'm going to keep pushing through. Like when you have so many different factors going on in like life, and there's some things like that I'm like, okay, cool, handled, done with. And I like, whatever. Yeah.
And choosing your battles too. And we have to do that with every person in our lives, our family members, friends, you know, there's so many different battles that we have to choose. But yeah, I love that you guys lift each other up, and that this is all in all an incredible experience. And it is, you know, Keeping It Glam is your business. So the fact that he's willing and able to give you pointers and business advice, but still let you be the one that, there's a word I was going to say, I'm forgetting it now, but basically delegate how things are going to go down. I think that that's really sweet of him. And he's letting you step into your female boss energy by doing so, but he's being a good, supportive husband and backbone to you and your business simultaneously. So,
absolutely. Yeah. He's definitely good at that.
I feel fully capable of loving many people, not physically, but being in love with many people at once, because like my love for people just never seems to die. They could hate me, they could block me, I could have broken their heart, they could have broken mine, but like I still just,
it's the Virgo in you.
Yeah, I still just love them so much. I just love. I love to love. So not saying that I would want to be with many people at one time, but like the love that I have and will cherish forever with someone that has taught me an experience never dies. At least in my heart, it doesn't.
I feel like mine is opposite.
Okay.
And that honestly, no, I feel
my
like
ex that was a Cancer actually told me that once. He was like, yeah, and when I break up with someone, we're done. They are dead to me. I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to love you forever. So.
Oh, you're like, I hope it makes you angry too. No, I love
it eats you up at night.
Right. I think that's so sweet. And like, that's like very, very sweet that you're just like, oh, my love never dies. Like I really try to pride myself in being a nice person. Yeah, but I think when it comes to like, I try, like, not that I try, but like me saying this makes me feel like, the reason I say that is because me saying this makes me feel like a terrible person. It like, if I give you all my love and you let me down and like you hurt me, I'm, oh my gosh, done. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like there's just this level of like this almost in like this invaded trust, this broken trust, just very like, it's this resentful feeling that you get. Like it's a very Cancer-esque.
See, and I feel like it's like my moon and rising in Aquarius too, that I'm just so detached from things. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I know that this ex broke into my house and almost killed somebody and it ended up in a court case, but I still love you. I really hate you for that, doing that to me.
Is this an actual instance?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I've never talked about it on the show before. I mean, it did happen. It's something that happened. After I broke up with somebody, they
broke into your house.
They made a copy of the key, and a month later when I was with someone else, they broke in while they were there, and it just was this thing.
The person they tried to kill, was it the other person that you were with?
It's this new person that I was with, and many people have made comments about it over the years. It's pretty subjective. Some people say, well, why were you, that's because you hurt their feelings. You were with someone else too soon. And that's an opinion. And another opinion is, no, this person doesn't have rights to you. This is just dating. And this is, what life is like. Yeah, what life is like dating, that people don't get to do that out of being emotionally hurt. And yeah, it really did suck because it was only a month and a half before my dad died. And because I felt so much shame from that happening to me, I didn't really want to be around my dad. So I do actually hold, this just like got so deep out of nowhere, but I do actually hold a lot of upset feelings harbored in my heart over, wow, out of your emotional immaturity, you broke into my house, in turn hurting this person, in turn hurting me, physically messing up my home that, you know, caused about $1,200 worth of repairs and damages. You know, so much, but it also kept me from that little sliver of time that I had left with my dad, just out of feeling shame of not wanting to tell, you know, have to talk about it with my dad and my parents, but like also emotionally needing to talk about that because someone just kicked my door in at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? What
we need to get you one of those little things that go under the door.
No, seriously. I mean, and I have friends that are like, why are you so jumpy? I'm like, someone broke into my home.
Well, now after your Italy trip, I think you've got a lot of reasons to be jumpy in life.
Yeah, I'm just naturally jumpy. So there's that. But yeah, no. So even though, you know, it's like experiences that you go through with someone that are, and not that mine is special. We've all gone through some crazy things in relationships that are so beyond messed up and twisted. We should do an entire
podcast on that.
Oh yeah, I'd love to, because we could really unpack there, sis. But that is separate from my love for the person still, and that's what I mean by I have such a detached approach. Sometimes I feel like it can almost be my Virgo that's more analytical. Like, no, pick this all apart. They did this to you. It's so messed up. But then my Aquarius is like, la da 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 da. We're all connected. We're all one. It's okay. We all make mistakes. You know, it's just a human experience.
I think that's so beautiful, though. I want to change my answer a little bit just to say, like, it's not that I hate them. It's not that I'm like wishing their death. It's more, it's not that I'm plotting my revenge. No, I think also it kind of goes back to like what you were saying as far as like, I'm trying to think of exactly like how you worded it, but pretty much how you were like talking about like the red flags and like our, like what we do and don't allow and things like that. And like, I think once you have obviously gone through these people that give you your red flags, it's just kind of like, okay, cool. Like checked off the list. Like, I know that this isn't the one, like whatever. Yeah. And then, so it's like when I did find Julian and he had all these checks and like none of these X's, you know what I'm saying? Like all like the checks and balances like checks out. And like, I'm like, wow, like it literally, like it's just kind of like this moment of like, wow, like you're everything I've ever dreamed of and you're everything I've ever prayed for. And like, I will do anything, like, you know what I'm saying? Like to keep this like love. And so I think for me, like when I met Julian, it made sense why nothing else worked out. It made sense all the heartbreak that I had gone through. Yeah. But like, and like, I guess if I saw them in a grocery store, I would like, hey, what's up? Possibly like maybe to just a few. There's like a few that like actually like were so awful and like just terrible that I would just kind of like pretend they didn't exist. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, I wouldn't wish any of them did. I just don't think that I would like go out of my way to like say hi to them. Yeah. You know, cause it's like, like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like.
No, I agree with you. I don't know if I would. I would go out of my way to go up to that person and say, why did you do it? No, let me not there. But yeah, no, I guess I still like thinking about some things with relationships. There has been things that are unresolved, and either that's going to make you, want resolution as a person, or it's going to draw you away. You see him in public. Oh, nope. Turn the other way.
Right. And it's like, if you know, like you don't want the resolution, like if you've already, like in my instance, like I've already like found my person. And for you, like you're like, not that you're searching, but you're open to your person.
Your heart's open,
you know? So it's like, you almost don't even want to like open Pandora's box and jump down the rabbit hole of like your feelings and what you felt at that time, because you're like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like the past is the past. You messed up and I accepted that. And like, I'm the only one who had to like basically mourn like the loss of that and the hurt of that. Like you didn't have to feel those feelings that I felt because you're the one that inflicted that pain on me. And like, I've gotten through it. I'm on the other side of it. There is no reason for me to open Pandora's box and like reach back in and feel those feelings again. Cause been there, done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like almost making the emotion of what you just explained and described, taking it from a science or a scientific standpoint, you know, the physiological lifespan of an emotion is only 90 seconds. So a minute and a half. So we're mowing over things, past experiences in our brain. We're getting heated. That 90 seconds, that minute and a half comes and it's like, okay, no, simmer down. Anything past this is indeed overthinking. So I agree with you on that. It's like, you know, that was the past. We can't sit here and harp on it. And, you know, the medicine for the open wound is forgiveness. And that's something, you know, I talked about in the episode 25 life lessons in 25 years of life. And that, you know, a lot of that life lesson that I said about giving forgiveness, even when people haven't said sorry, that one's hard for me on a daily basis because like getting my house broken into, there have been a lot of things in this 25 years of life that I have not received a sorry for that like, you know, still it's like open wounds, but I have covered them with forgiveness. And it can be hard.
That's not to say it doesn't still hurt. Like, just because because forgiveness is more so for yourself than it is for the other person sometimes. Yeah. And whether that's like in, you know, like relationship wise, whether that's in like old relationship wise, or whether that's like within like friendships, I think honestly, like my like hurts like that. Like when I think back to like being wronged, like obviously like my relationships like weren't always the best, but I feel like the friendships that you lose can sometimes hurt more than a breakup.
Oh, that part.
That's like the one that those are the people that you run to, like when you're getting your heart broken and like when you're hurt, you know what I mean? Like, or like any of those things, like growing up or whatever, like those people that you like kind of had falling outs with, like, or just wronged you in general, like those are a lot harder, I feel like, to get past than like actual like relationships because
agreed.
You know,
they can sometimes be much deeper than just love. They can involve other things. So going off of this, what advice would you say? What is like one piece of advice you would give to the younger generation when it comes to dating? And finding your one, or maybe finding your multiple ones if they're polygamous.
Right. Whichever. Dang. Let me sit on this for a second because this is a big one. One piece of advice that I would give to the younger generation.
Something that speaks to you maybe right now. Because obviously, I say this in a lot of my blogs, but I'm like, you know, this is for interpretation. Something I write right now maybe doesn't resonate with me tomorrow, but it resonated with me today.
I'll be honest, it's really hard for me sometimes, like, so there's certain questions I feel like that I'm asked sometimes by people, and there is only one explanation that I have for it. And sometimes I'm always nervous about how that comes across to people. So let me just preface it by saying this, like we talked about earlier, is in no way like me trying to like, you know, turn people off based on like what I believe. This is just like my own personal beliefs, like, you know, whatever. Yeah. I feel like I can't answer the question without kind of giving like credit where it's due. Cause like for me, like after dating so many people who had kind of like wronged me and really just made me question my own self-worth, and just dealing with the experiences that I had in high school and just the level of like insecurity and just like kind of almost, you know, to a point of like self-hatred it got to, like this just really dark place. Like whenever I was like younger, when you get to that level, it got to this place where I was just consistently praying like for this person, and I would kind of give this checks and balances of like, you know, and God let him have this and this and this and this. And not that those things mattered, but it was almost like I was like, I needed something to have hope for. Yeah. And I just continued to pray. And I know it sounds chuggy AF, but like, I mean, when I met Julian, that was like, I immediately, like I knew like everything I had prayed for, like God had put into this one person. And I pretty much told God, like before I had gotten Julian, like before I had met him, I said, God, like if you can grant me this person, I'll give you whatever you want. So God gives me Julian, and I completely like turned my life around and like got plugs into the church and, you know, like changed. I think you know, as a person, Julian and I had, this is kind of TMI, but like whatever, we're all going in tonight. You're talking about getting your house broken into. I'm going all in.
Hey, the truth just is. Lies need stories to survive.
So we had like pretty early on in our relationship, we had moved in together. I want to say like 8 months, which is kind of like, I never would have thought in my own realistic brain, like that would make sense. But like you're in love, you do whatever.
Yeah.
But I had gotten plugged into the church and all these things and, you know, really felt like we got baptized together and, you know, both started serving. And around that same time, God convicted us of living together before being married. And when I talk to people about this, like, although yes, it is biblical, it's not something that I use to condemn people because it's like, at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want to do. I have friends who live with their significant others without being married. And like, that has no effect on me, girly pop. Like that does not bother me. You know what I'm saying? Like one of those things. But for us personally, that was just like the walk that like God kind of had us on. And so we stopped having sex for 2 years, and granted, like we had our little slip up moments. It was difficult. It was hard, but like that was kind of our way of like kind of surrendering our marriage to God so he could bless that. And, you know, I genuinely do feel like he has kind of from our obedience and different things like that. And it was a lot. That's why I said like, it's one of those things where like intimacy is so important to us, but it's also one of those things where it's like, we did give it up like for 2 years. Like, we tried our best, you know, to kind of like honor that idea. Cause I mean, obviously like when you meet your person and you have to go to them and you have to tell them, so here's my list of people that I've slept with. It's this kind of almost like shameful, like embarrassing feeling. If it's like the feeling you'd feel. Is that
what we're doing now? Are we sharing lists?
Hey, listen.
Just kidding.
You're like, Carly's like, I have never shared a list. Don't ask for it.
I don't even have a list.
Carly's like, guys, I'm a virgin.
Yes. I'm a virgin Virgo.
Your sisters are listening. You're like, I'm a virgin. Anywho.
No, I'm like, is that what we're doing? Sharing lists? But okay, sorry.
So obviously like going to my husband and being like, okay, like this is the people, whatever, you know, that I've, you know, and it's this almost like embarrassing, shameful feeling. Cause it's like, you know, I'm so sorry that I didn't trust that you were out there. Like, I'm so sorry that like, I didn't trust God enough that like, he was going to give me you. Like, it makes me almost wish that like, I could have waited. Cause like, when I think back to people that I've given myself to, it's a really embarrassing feeling. Cause you're like, why? Like they didn't at that time do anything worth deserving of you. And yet you were just so willing to just like give them you. And like, it's something that I've like struggled with for a really long time because that was, I mean, it's a really big part of my like history, I guess, that like I wasn't very proud of and wasn't proud to like tell my husband, you know, that I have been with other people. But I think that, through that, we were able to do something really beautiful, and we were able to, you know, wait kind of for a few years together, and kind of give that back to God. So I think really, truly, and honestly, if I could give you any piece of advice, it's pray. And, you know, like if you're not religious and, you know, it's not your cup of tea, I just want to invite you that it doesn't have to be religion, because religion is man-made. Religion is things that we are told over time. I want to say it's more spiritual. It's more about like your connection, your relationship. Absolutely. And you know, if you believe in a higher power, whoever your creator is, mine is God. And I don't know what yours may be, but I accept you. I love you regardless. I just want to really encourage you to dive into that spirituality of yourself, because I think that through spirituality, we're able to become the best parts of ourselves. We're able to connect to, you know, in my case, to God and to my creator, to figure out like, you know, my purpose, like why was I put on this earth, like my spiritual gifts, just the things that I'm supposed to be doing, like all of these things that he's granted to us and blessed us with. So yeah, it's kind of hard. That's why I said like we had, Julian and I had an interview, like I want to say a few weeks ago with somebody, and they were talking about the business and asking us like how we got the business and things like that. And that is very similar to that question to me, because it's like, so difficult for me to talk about, I guess, such a big conversation without including that, because I guess like spirituality is such a big part of my life. And I do accredit a lot of my successes to that. I'm never going to be the person who's going to be like, Carly, you know what? I'm the shit. And sorry, I didn't mean to curse on your podcast so many times. You know what? I'm the shit. And I like did that. And I'm so great. I'm not that person. Yeah. I have a really hard time tooting my own horn. So a lot of times like that glory does get given right back to where it's due, because like this business was never mine. You know what I'm saying? Like it was God's, and he gave it to me. Like he gave me the opportunities to have what we have. Like none of this, like I wouldn't have any of like my clients, I wouldn't have Julian, I wouldn't have anything. Like I would still be back in my situation where I was like so defeated and just like this young girl who was lost and just had like tons of just like self-doubt and insecurity and just like a broken heart, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't have anything that I do now had it have not been for him. So as chuggy as it sounds, I'm going to tell you probably what everyone's parents tells them and to pray. But aside from that,
and just to wait and save yourself. I mean, it doesn't even have to be so spiritual. It can just be physical and emotional too.
That's even just for yourself, because like even, without the spiritual aspect of sex, like you really are giving yourself to somebody, and it's a very emotional tie. Like even you can say, oh, I don't care about that person all you want, but it's like you still gave part of yourself to that somebody. And like, you know, that's difficult sometimes to like navigate through. Obviously, like the older you get and the further it's been away from that time, that it gets, you know, easier and you're not like, like tripping over it, especially as like I'm married. I'm definitely not like thinking back and I'm like, oh, I'm so sad about like X, Y, and Z that so-and-so did to me, you know, but it's still just one of those things where it's like, it could have made you personally just feel better. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like you want to definitely focus on yourself. You want to definitely like make sure you're pouring into yourself first and foremost, sorting out your trauma before you like meet your person. Cause I had to sort through all of mine, like while I was meeting my person. That can be difficult, but also beautiful because you're growing with that person. But yeah, I think that would be my piece of advice, my very long-winded piece of advice.
No, I love that. And last thing before I ask you the last question, going off on going off of the whole, you know, saving yourself thing, and you know, to some maybe it doesn't even have to be for marriage. Maybe it can just be when you've reached a elevated, more enlightened version of yourself mentally and emotionally, and you're more emotionally mature. You know, even that you can wait for that, because I know on a lot listening, and Taylor and myself, maybe we wished that we were more emotionally mature before doing such a or partaking in such a sacred act of, you know, expressing ourselves.
And I will say too, like it doesn't even have to be, if you don't feel convicted to not have sex before marriage, like you do you, baby. But like maybe it's okay, like a week before your wedding, you guys decided to like, you know, be abstinent for the week. And so you guys can really appreciate your wedding night because you're just doing the same thing you do every other night, you know, something like that, where it's like,
absolutely,
it doesn't have to be exactly 2 years or whatever span of time. Like that was just personally our walk with God and like what we personally felt like. And I think that everyone's testimony and everyone's walk with God looks so different. So when
different texture.
Absolutely. So when I tell that story, I definitely like to make it like very well known that like me saying that isn't saying that I think that every person should model like the same, you know. I think that everyone's love story looks different. Everybody's stories look different. And I think that, you know, all that matters is that we get to what looks like our finish line, you know?
Absolutely. I love that. And last question of the night is, do you believe in soulmates?
100%. Absolutely. I definitely believe in soulmates. I've also looked into like twin flame and like all those things. I definitely feel like Julian is the yin to my yang. I love that. It's like a very like, I can't explain it. It's just that feeling of like when I met him, I knew immediately. He said like, so like he definitely knew too at the same time. When Julian actually first met me, we snuck into the Holiday Inn. I think it was like a Holiday Inn or like it was some kind of like resort at Wrightsville Beach. We snuck into the pool part and we didn't like sneak in. Technically his friend had a place there, but like we weren't, you know, whatever. So we're in the pool and I just remember him looking at me and telling me that my eyes look like lightning. Cause like I had the water to my nose like this and my like eyes were just like reflecting with the pool and like the ocean. And he told me that my eyes look like lightning. And then he just kept saying like these little things. And obviously like, you know, when you first start dating and you're in the honeymoon phase, like most men are going to like do the flirty cutesy things, but Julian was just so kind. And I've never experienced somebody being just so like genuine and kind, you know, like there's compliments and then there's like somebody saying something and like you feeling it, like that they're being like genuine. And, I don't know. I just think that like I knew right away, like I was like, there isn't a thing in the world that I wouldn't do for this man. Like he could tell me to jump off a bridge and I think I would do it. Like I remember when I first met Julian, like I was scared of the dark, which still isn't my favorite thing, but I remember like him coming over to my apartment and being like, turn all the lights off in my room and maybe walk from my bed all the way into the bathroom with no lights on and like touch the back wall and like run back. Like just little things like that where I was like, he genuinely like loves me to a point where he wants to see me be my best self. And like any chance that he's gotten to like boost me up or like make me feel better as a woman or just like make me feel confidence or loved, like he just goes so far out of his way to do it. And so I think for me, like that just like is the epitome of like soulmates and like your person, you know, because it's like, you don't want to be with someone where it's like you're oil and water, like, or oil and vinegar, whatever. Like, it's like, obviously you're going to fight. You're going to have like those times where like, you don't always agree on everything. Like we're human. Like we definitely disagree on things. Julian and I are so different. It's like unreal how we even like coexist, but we do a really great job at compromising. And I think like through being patient and like we were talking about earlier, like patience and compromise definitely makes for a easier time.
Definitely, validates your belief in the existence of soulmates.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like, especially branching off of what I shared earlier about just being such a lover and just loving love. I mean, my favorite holiday is Valentine's. The word soulmate is something I believe in. I don't want to say something that I struggle with because I don't think that it's a struggle. I believe in it. I watched my parents be best friends since they were like 3 years old. And then they started dating in junior high, dated all through high school, college, got married, had us 3 girls. And my dad died at 46, but you know, they were soulmates. I saw a beautiful unconditional love growing up and that I was so blessed to see. But, my conviction or get up with soulmate is, you know, you take the word and the word is soul and mate. I think that my soul can be mates and kick it with a lot of people, not in like a sexual or romantic way. I have friends, like best friends that feel like soulmates to me. So I guess a question I have is, can you have many soulmates simultaneously or people that your soul feels tied to? So that's a question I have, but also I do believe in there being just that one person. And I do have just that one person that I have told everybody over the years. I'm like, this person is my soulmate. I love them unconditionally. I know that they're a soulmate of mine because if, you know, something were to ever happen to us, like if we were, let's say, left in wheelchairs or full body paralysis, their mind is just something that feeds me so astronomically on a daily basis that I do feel that connection with them. But obviously, as someone that is in the dating world, some of the principles of a soulmate, I'm a knowledge seeker, so I just seek to know more on a daily basis, and that's why this conversation with you is so enriching. And you saying you absolutely believe, and you know, you're making me sit here and question things in myself, you saying you just knew in that moment, like you guys being right together, being around each other. So yeah, I believe as well, but I guess I definitely question things and, yeah.
What was the question before that though?
Do you believe in soulmates?
No, but I think you said in friends, right?
Oh,
in multiple people.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think on that one because I've only ever thought of a soulmate being like
romantic.
Yeah, romantic or as my person. I think definitely there's people like I have friends where it's like, you know, like they've been around forever and just like the more that you go through things, you're like, wow, like this is like one of my people. Like this is like my person. Like I love this person. Like as like your friends.
Yeah. But I guess mate, the word mate is also like, you know, the two primal instincts of
I guess they are like if we were Australian, they'd be mating. Our mate.
That I know. So it's like mate. I'm thinking of it as
or a pirate.
You know, mate. Matey. But then mate, I mean, if we're being more serious here, the primal instincts, the two main ones are survival and mating. So the word mate, I do think has that sort of connotation of being romantic or
I guess we could also use Meredith Grey as an example because Christina was her person But Derek was the love of her life.
Yeah.
I think both of them were kind of her soulmates.
Her mates.
Yeah, her mates. I think that I definitely have a close like relationship with my friends, but I think that like Julian's like my ultimate BFF.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
so maybe that's what it should be, as you know, your mate can be your ultimate BFF.
I think also like being married makes me feel like an old fart kind of, you know what I mean? Like I don't go out and like do things. I'm not really just like, which I'm happy about. Like I'm tired anyways from work. I want to go home. Like, but I think
build something with someone.
Right. Like for the most part though, I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. I think that I love my friends.
Yeah.
But I think that my soulmate is Julian.
No, I agree with you on this. Totally, like wholeheartedly. I guess I'm being kind of open with the question here, but when I want to, reel it back in, I agree with you wholeheartedly on everything. And I do think that there is that one for people. And not to say that sometimes that one, you don't come back to that one. Maybe people take time apart. Maybe people need more time to heal, to grow. You just never know. In life, you never know. There was on the Ed Milet podcast, he was interviewing Humble the poet that just wrote a book about love, and it was an incredible episode. I recommend everybody listen to it. But they were laughing, and Humble the poet said something along the lines of, he said, most of you are so addicted to seeking the thrill, seeking these people that are not good for you, that you've probably passed your soulmate because you couldn't look at what you had in front of you because it was so good. It was so, boring, maybe you even said, because they were so attentive and communicative and all of the things that you're like, no, I want the thrill. I want the spontaneity. I want the, ghosting me for a couple of hours. And I want the game playing.
Back to that Snapchat culture.
Right. So I thought that was funny. I was like, oh, God.
I think that's also a lot of like Gen Z, like a lot. Like, I'm not going to say all, because I definitely think there's...
Hey, until next time, right?
I could probably get Julian to add it back. Hey, Julian, camera turned off.
We probably went for a really long time. I was going to say we could clip it at like one of those last little...
Did you want to close it out though?
Yeah, we can.
Julian. Hey, your camera turned off.
Yeah, it died.
It died.
Oh yeah, y'all been rolling for almost 2 hours.
2 hours?
Probably like hour and close to hour and 40.
Well, all of this was a very fun, enriching, enlightening conversation. We will definitely have to do more of them because, as we just heard, this one went on for a couple of hours. So thank you so much, Taylor, for joining me here today. And you guys definitely check Taylor out and, follow them on Instagram. What is your @ name again?
Keeping It Glam, and then also My Happy Place podcast. And then also, if you're looking for the boutique, it is Ryland Boutique.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carly.
You're so welcome. And sorry, we've been talking for so long. My brain is scrambled. Until next time, guys, stay bloomy brained.
Au revoir.